Like Inger was saying, so today we're going to talk about the life care plan, creating a life care plan. We're going to go into the weeds a little bit. It's going to be similar if you guys ever saw the first workshop, but it's going to be a little bit different in terms of the conversations we're going to have around certain points. But please, please, please ask questions. Stop me. The more engaging this conversation or workshop is, the better and the more fruitful it will be for you guys as parents. So please don't ever hesitate to just stop, raise your hand, cut me off, doesn't matter. This is your time to ask us questions. We're here as a resource for you guys. I'll hopefully don't have the power to mute. So if there's any noise and whatnot, I'll probably just stop and ask everyone just to make sure they're muted if it comes off mute. But let's go ahead and jump into things. Oh, Inger, can you give me
yes, sorry.
That way
let me find you. Where are you? Brian. There you go.
Awesome.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Take your time.
Okay, you got it?
Let me see.
There you go.
Perfect. So let's see, I'm on screen 1. So let's go ahead, get everything situated and jump in, please. I always do it this way. Awesome. So like I said in the beginning, so we're going to talk about creating a legal and life care plan today, and we're going to talk about the different situations, the different conversations you need to be ready to have as a parent. And from a high level, we just got done actually interviewing a client of ours and another residential nonprofit that's being set up, and we were talking with Kelly, and she talked about how as a parent, she just lives day to day. That's really what's happening. There's just so much going on. She's learning so much as she's growing with her young adult. And so it's really important for us to have this conversation of planning. Yes, I understand that at times you only focus on today, but we do need to think about the future and what that holds. We do need to be ready for certain conversations at certain times. And you need to surround yourself by these professionals that you trust, accountants and bankers and planners and attorneys, social workers, medical providers, nonprofits like Family to Family. You need to surround yourself because it does take a village to raise some of our young adults. And we have to be able to spread responsibility across different individuals. We also have to be ready and open to maybe different perspectives of what we're doing for the future for our young adult. And some of the key planning areas and phases is laid out here. And we have to understand that, if your young adult's 3 to 5 years old, there's no reason for you to spend any time or effort on guardianship. Zero. That is not a conversation you should be having at 3 to 5 years old of what guardianship is, what are the different types of guardianship. You really need to wait till closer to 18. You need to spend your time on making sure that, one, do you have your young adult on Medicaid waiver programs? Did you sign them up? Did you start that clock? Have you looked at IEPs in the school district? Do you feel like you're getting the right services as a parent, or your young adults being served correctly by the school district? Transition planning, early intervention. Those are the things you should be focusing on. As we age and get closer to 18, then yes, we're going to be talking about guardianship. We're going to be talking about the ability to go to college or be employed at 18. Understanding different government benefits that kick on at 18. Obviously, as we get older in life, there's new conversations, new things we need to plan for. But we as planners and Family to Family will obviously sit down and evaluate your situation so that you're not wasting these precious hours researching things that don't necessarily matter to you right off the bat. But you do have to plan. You do have to understand what's going to come on in the future, what's going to become available. And that's really what a plan does. It lays the foundation and allows you to change the plan, to be flexible and not have to say what we built 3 or 4 or 5 years ago is what we have to stick to. It's going to change. It's going to grow. And this slide actually does a little bit better job of, if you fall into one of these two categories, this is the types of conversations or the things you should be focusing on. Before the age of 18, like I talked about, Medicaid waivers, that is huge. If you don't know what Medicaid waivers are, if you are unfamiliar with Medicaid waivers, please reach out. I believe Family to Family in the coming weeks think it's in October or November, going to have a workshop on just Medicaid waivers. I will be attending to continue to learn more. So I do encourage you guys to attend as well. We're going to talk about, or what you should be focusing on is either early intervention or IEPs through the school district, and transition planning for your middle-aged teenagers, 14 to 16. And then of course the legal structure. Doesn't matter how old you are, does not matter how old your young adult is, you need a legal plan in place. You need wills and trust. You need to understand the pros and cons of a standalone trust versus a testamentary will. You need that. Doesn't matter. When you're 18 and older, then of course there's government benefits, which we'll talk about. Constantly reviewing the legal structure. Now your child's going to typically start receiving Medicaid at 18 and beyond. And what does Medicare mean for you later in life? When does that turn on? What does that look like? We'll talk about the disabled adult child benefit today. And we'll also talk about Ssdi as well. And then of course, college. College is a big one. College is a great opportunity for some of our young adults to go out into the real world, start building friendships and community out there, but it's not necessarily meant for everyone. And so we'll talk about that as well. This slide right here is, we've already gone through this slide. We did a whole workshop on this, so I'm not going to spend too much time here, but these are the different steps, the different topics that you need to address and have conversations for. What we're going to focus on today is actually building out a plan. And so understanding what numbers are going to be there, understanding what benefits are going to be there, and really categorizing them into 4 different areas. We've broken them up into 4 because we have 1 is family and asset planning. So understand what you currently have available as resources. Then we're going to talk about as your working years, as you're employed, focusing on employer benefits, maximizing what you get from your employer, and or look at different employment options to maximize what's available for your young adult. Then we break it into just government benefits. What are they? When are they turning on? What do they provide?
Wait, we have to wait. We have to wait.
Is that a share?
No, we have to wait.
Oh, Marianne,
No, sure.
you have a question? And then of course we talk about the legal planning. What type of legal documents do you need? So from a family assets and planning, it's so important to have this meeting with family and friends of asking the 2 most important questions. And we've talked about this before. 1, are you willing to step in and help? And 2, are you able to step in and help? Most family members are willing, but are they necessarily able to? If they're not financially solid, if they're going through struggles themselves, if they are young, probably not the best time to ask them to take care of some other adult. If they're not geographically close to you, probably not a very good option as well. But you need to have this family meeting. You need to be open, set expectations, allow yourself to have feedback, share that vision of what you want the future to be for your young adults. Be open-minded, have different options, allow the family members to give you feedback. Ask the young adult that we're planning for if they're capable of making those types of decisions. Ask them what they want. Where do they want to live? Do they want to live with brother? Or do they want to live with sister? Do they want to live in Houston, or do they want to move closer to brother or sister, aunt and uncle? Be open to those conversations. Obviously, you need to discuss concerns and listen to concerns from the next in line. What are they? What worries them the most? What do you need to address as a mom and dad today so that those concerns aren't a concern in the future? Dynamics change. Every single year, dynamics change. We grow older. The world changes every single year. 2019, everything was going smooth. And then come February 2020, the world was shut down. Dynamics change, life changes, job opportunities change, siblings move around, parents move around. You have to understand what dynamics are there, what could potentially arise in the future. And then if there's a stalemate, if you feel like you need additional assistance because the current family members just can't provide, what professionals are out there that can help with that family dynamics? Counselors, outside advocates, fiduciaries to hire if your siblings, or excuse me, if your young adult doesn't have siblings or family members. or maybe their brother or sister cannot act in the capacity as a caretaker. What's out there? What should you start looking at? Who should you start having conversations with? There are fiduciaries out there for hire. There are advocates for hire out there. Counselors are a huge piece of the family dynamic and puzzle. Allowing siblings to vent or to express frustration or concerns, that's a big way of doing that without hurting anyone's feelings. I put together, there's supposed to be a picture on the left. It didn't come through, so it looks like a very cheesy slide. I apologize. But these are some questions to have with your other children. And so I say that from my mom having conversations with myself and Tim, so that we can voice our concerns for James. And so these are questions that as a sibling I had growing up, and as a parent, you should take these 4 bullet points and be proactive and communicate these 4 points to whoever is next in line. So communication, open dialogue, and feedback is so important in this part of the process. Making sure you articulate how other children fit into the plan or don't. There's some parents that don't want the brother or sister to participate in the plan just because they don't feel like that's their responsibility or that's their job. So making sure that you communicate how they do fit and how they don't fit and allow them to give you feedback, whether they want to be in the plan or not. Again, ask them, hey, Tim, what concerns do you have for taking care of James? My wife, Rachel, what concerns does she have in the event that, I become sick or I'm unable to care for James since she's my wife? Listening to that feedback as a mom and dad is so important. And then this last question was single-handedly the number one question that I asked my mom before I left for college in the Air Force that spurred her to action to start implementing certain things was, what has been set up? You as a parent do all this advocating, all of this planning, all of these conversations with doctors and nurses and support therapists and caretakers out there, but you don't communicate that necessarily. And so you need to figure out what has been set up and make sure that siblings or next in line understand what's been set up and how does it work. This question is what I asked my mom. I said, Mom, what has been set up? You haven't told me anything. You just kept on kicking the can down the road saying, hey, I've got it taken care of. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just apply to college. Don't worry about it. Worry about the Air Force. But you need to communicate what has been set up. You don't have to tell them necessarily how much is going into the trust, how much insurance or how much are in investments, but you need to tell them there is a trust set up. There is a will that tells the next in line who's going to be the guardian or caretaker. We have made sure that the assets flow correctly, but you need to communicate that very last question. One of the best ways to articulate that, not just verbally, but in a written agreement or plan, is through the letter of intent. Is creating a letter of intent, revisiting every single year. Why, when, how, and who. Those are important subjects that are in the letter of intent. Explaining their routines, their current situation versus what you as a parent or as an advocate want and hope for the future. We do not want the lifestyle of the young adult to change in a worse position just because mom and dad's not here. We need it to stay the same or improve. And the letter of intent allows us as in siblings or next in line, to pick up exactly where you left off as a parent. We talk about updating regularly, at least once a year. Just flip through it. Things will change, prescriptions, routines, doctors. If you write a letter of intent for someone who's 16 years old, and the next time you touch it's when the young adult's 30, I probably will go to guess that they're probably not seeing their pediatrician since they're 30 years old, but that's just a guess. Those are things that naturally change that you need to make sure you change in the letter of intent. I always saw the situation with my brother in the bed sheets, but there's just other things as well. Doctors that my mom doesn't want my brother to go back to because they just heavily medicate him. And that's not something my mom believes James should be on. He's already on 13 different medications, 12 different medications. She doesn't want to add anymore. So these are things you need to customize this. Every single young adult's different. We try to to build the letter of intent to be as flexible as possible. But this is so important, so important. It's kind of the manual that you never received as a parent, but you can change that by making your own manual for the next in line. And it's so important that you do. So the next section of the plan that you need to sit down and articulate and write out and understand is employer benefits, is understanding life insurance first and foremost from your employer. Employer life insurance is the first option that we look at to cover a need or a situation where mom and dad are no longer here. It's the cheapest typically, but do you understand that if your child's disability is lifelong, which pretty much everyone on here's disability, young adults disability is lifelong, that group employer benefits do not carry into retirement. They stop the day you're fired, the day that you leave, or the day that you retire. And so understanding that there will be a fall off in group benefits is extremely important for you as a parent, understanding what's there. Short-term and long-term disability. There's a question, it's kind of a joke because no one ever thinks about it, but it's a serious question, is if I was to ask you as a mom or a father to your family, what do you consider the greatest asset to your family? Most family or mom and dads will say my home. My home is the greatest asset. It's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. I live here. It provides me shelter. But in reality, it's mom or dad's ability to earn an income for that household. If mom or dad become sick or disabled themselves and they cannot save for their retirement, they cannot save for their child's future, that is catastrophic and you can't overcome that. Your greatest asset, your greatest financial benefit to the family is your ability to work and earn an income and to save financially. So making sure that you understand when you get your employer packages every year in the fall, examine the short-term and long-term disability. It is so important for you as a parent to make sure you cover that risk. Employer retirement plans, saving to report employer retirement plans, getting the employer match is crucial. You should be saving at least the match to your employer 401k. At least you're leaving free money on the table. But understanding 401ks, understanding the IRAs, understanding the pension benefits, all of these are great financial resources. But as a parent, there's one thing that you need to remember when you analyze this before talking to anyone, is those are pre-tax assets. So yes, you might have $1 million 401k, but that is not $1 million benefit to your child. There is taxes due on those funds. So making sure you analyze that correctly is super, super important. Supplemental benefits. This is huge. There's fringe benefits within some of our employers. We've met with, I don't know, this past year, 2 or 3 clients that have legal benefits through work. So please, we're going to talk about legal documents and wills. Please reach out to your employer and see if they have those types of benefits where it's very cheap. It's, $6 to $12 a month. You sign up, you get access to an attorney for a few hours every single year. Have them draft your wills. Send them to us. We'll tell you what needs to be corrected and get it a lot more cost effective that way. Other benefits would be having ABA therapies covered through health insurance through work, making sure that you've understood how your Aetna, your Blue Cross, your Cigna works through your employer. There's a lot of benefits here through the employer that sometimes we see aren't being used correctly. So that is the first and foremost place financially where you could start, is looking at your employer handbook, analyzing what's available and asking yourself, am I taking advantage of this? Am I taking advantage of it for myself? Am I taking advantage of it for my young adult? And so that's one great spot to work or to start. Any questions on the first 2 categories before I jump to government benefits? No? Awesome. I also want to mention as well some of the great employer benefits that you should, as a blanket recommendation, I do not care what your situation is, you should be participating if you have the ability to for HSAs, health savings accounts. Those are extremely flexible. They're pre-tax dollars and they come out pre-tax dollars whenever you use them for qualified health expenses. It's another way to lower your taxable income now while providing health benefits in the future. So very, very, very important there. And then as well, check to see if there's any child care benefits. If you have young adults, or excuse me, young minors, see if your employer will offer daycare benefits. That's kind of a benefit that we're starting to see in a lot of packages here in Houston.
Brian, before you get started on the government benefits, I wanted to share with them, just remember, we are going to have our classes, the small groups, we're going to talk about gathering information. Also the life trajectory, which means how through our life stages we change. And so we're going to talk about how you change and how you get ready for the next stage. So we really encourage that you take an opportunity to come to some of our small groups. And as we said, it's going to be online if you prefer, or we could have it in person, but we'll start registering. So just keep that in mind, and all that information that Brian is sharing with you about the documents that you'll need. We're going to form, which is called a profile. So we'll get you ready with that and have that ready for you. So as you go through your stages, everyone will know what's going on in your life. And we're going to also have information with the trainings. We'll send those back out to you, because some of the information that Brian is sharing with you, especially with the letter of intent, we're going to have documentation about that. Ssdi is going to come. We have all that training coming up. So just remember, if you don't have the schedule anymore, email us, text us, and let us know, and we'll send it back out to you, because all that information we're going to gather and create that profile for you guys at the end. So just remember that and keep that in mind. And just as Brian said, it takes a village. So just know that your the people in your family need to know what is going to be their job.
Yeah.
And you
exactly.
know, yeah. So just keep that in mind. Just wanted to let you guys know. So I'll let Brian get back to the benefits.
And I think it's so important if all of you can make the small group, so you guys can start saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I've been told. This is kind of the questions that I have. And you as parents are able to support each other. Like Ingrid was saying, start gathering some of those documents, reviewing it. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to change anything or add anything. Just double check certain things. You know, down here at the bottom of this slide, where do I get all this information? How do I look up all the different benefits? Just email your HR representative and say, I would like an employer handbook. They will mail it to you. They will send it to you online. That's very easy. You can check all this stuff off with just one simple email. And so that is, as a parent, is something that you can do from a planning perspective, just to start and start seeing where you're at, where you start maybe identifying some holes, or where you need some assistance, or lean on other family members or other families for advice. So the next slide is government benefits. And so again, pre-18, post-18, you know, pre-18, typically, your young adult will not qualify for SSI and Medicaid, because while your child is under the age of 18, it's going to be based off of mom and dad's assets and income. So typically we do not qualify. However, if you were quick enough when your young adult was diagnosed in the earlier years, and you put your son or your daughter on Medicaid waivers list as soon as the diagnosis came through, there could be a high chance that your child would receive some type of Medicaid waiver prior to the age of 18, which would be good. That means you're going to receive Medicaid services prior to the age of 18. But for general purposes, we don't see that till 18 or later. But typically when we turn the age of 18, SSI and Medicaid is available. SSI is a financial income source for your young adult. That amount this year in 2021 is $794. With SSI comes Medicaid, which is their health insurance. So those are financially means tested benefits. So we need to make sure that we qualify financially, and then of course, making sure that the disability is recognized by Social Security's Disability Blue Book. When we talk about entitlement benefits, those are going to be SSDI/RSDI and Medicare. Those benefits are based off of mom and dad's work history and payment and credits into the Social Security system. as long as the disability occurred prior to the age of 22 for your young adult, and they don't have work history of their own, they will be considered a disabled adult child, a DAC. They will receive their children's disability benefit, which is 50% of your Social Security amount at the age of 67. So you will get your check, your young adult will get their check. On top of that, the day you pass away, that benefit goes from 50% to 75%. So there is that final increase. And that's important as a parent because you need to feel comfortable and understand that you are not starting from zero. If your child needs X amount of dollars a month when you're gone, or X amount of dollars a month now for services and therapies, you're not starting from zero if you're receiving SSI. That's $794. You're not starting from zero if you're receiving Ssdi or RSDI. It's 50% of your Social Security amount. So there are benefits there. Some of the other public support programs here in Texas would be like SNAP or food stamps. If we are on a very tight budget, if mom and dad did everything they could to save, but it was just very tough for them, or a long-term event happened and they depleted all their assets, there is food stamp programs. And you can utilize the food stamp programs and SNAP program for your young adult, even when you're around. So don't forget about that. There's the CHIP program as well. There's rental assistance programs as well. So there's a plethora of different benefits that where you should start is, what does my son or my daughter need today? What does my son or daughter need in the future? And then helping coordinate with us and family to family and other professionals, we will help you and direct you in the right public support programs out there. So again, I just talked about this, the family benefits. And so one thing to remember on the SSDI/RSDI, which I believe are right here, is there is a family maximum. And so the way you know what the family maximum is, it's on page 2 of your Social Security statement, halfway through the page. It will say the family maximum benefit amount, and it's usually 100 to 150% of your Social Security record. So you need to know that. And it's important to know that because if you, let's just say, let's make an example. Mom and dad are married. Mom and dad have children that are 8, 10, and 12 years old. The 10-year-old has Down syndrome, let's just say. Dad passes away unexpectedly. Those 3 minors, all 3 kids will receive a survivor benefit because they're minors. The 10-year-old with Down syndrome will receive a survivor's benefit for life. However, there's the family maximum that comes into play. So for you as a parent, that you need to know is whatever that dollar amount is, if you've got multiple children that are minors, divide that by how many children, and that's what each payment will be. And so you'll see that down here. And then the example is if there's multiple siblings or multiple children, that matters. It also matters if you have 2 adults with disabilities. And so when you talk about leaving that benefit, if you've got 2 young adults that qualify to receive a portion of the Social Security record, the family maximum comes into play. So just keep that in mind when planning, when gathering your documents, when reviewing your Social Security statement. It's really easy. Just look at your number, divide it by 50%. That's the RSDI benefit. If you've got multiple children that are minors or multiple young adults that are considered disabled, then look at that family maximum. That's going to be the family maximum amount that you have to deal with. I see one chat bubble. Oh, no, never mind. And then the disability benefit here, again, this will happen if the disability happened prior to the age of 22. And I forgot the financial aspect. And your young adult does not earn more than $1,310 a month. Now, there's going to be a workshop later on that will go into the weeds about this, but there are impairment-related work expenses to consider when we talk about this benefit. And as a parent, if you have a young adult that is working or that could work with assistance, you need to understand what impairment-related work expenses are. They are costs that you or your young adult have just to be able to work. So what does that mean? Let's say James, my brother, could work and earn $1,600 a month. Well, that's above $1,310. So my brother would disqualify himself from benefits if he did that. But my brother can't drive himself. My brother needs hearing aids. My brother needs medication because he has seizures. All of those are expenses that that young adult has that can go against that income through an impairment-related work expense. So you don't report 16, you report whatever that net income is, and you list out what that expense was for that month and how much it cost. So those are ways of getting below that 1310 if you have a young adult that's able to work. Is there a question out there? Nope.
Not yet. Mhm.
Okay. Oh, so Medicare. So this comes along with the RSDI, SSDI portion. So mom and dad retire, they start claiming Social Security. Mom gets her check, son or daughter gets their RSDI, SSDI check. That's 50%, remember. 24 months later, they will start receiving Medicare. That's important because that means they will be dual covered, Medicaid and Medicare. Give me 1 second. Tammy just asked a question. If an individual is not on SSI when parent retires, can you apply for SSDI? Absolutely. Tammy, also, what you would want to look at as well is depending on what that benefit is, you could receive some SSI. So there, I would probably dig a little bit further in the situation and say, why are we not receiving SSI now? Is there a reason for that? And then when you start receiving, so what was the rejection for, Tammy? You can unmute yourself if you want. This is, I think, a great opportunity for families to learn.
So I'm not really sure, except that I don't, so I did apply when I was 18. I went to Mr. Harwick's presentation up here with Conroe ISD, and he recommended that I apply for SSI because of the close tie between SSI and Medicaid, and the importance of if he's on Medicaid and had been on it for 2 years, when his dad and I start Social Security, then he's able to go to Medicare. I believe he was rejected because they didn't consider him disabled. He's high functioning on the autism spectrum. Apparently, I did not do a good enough job of convincing them. He does not have an intellectual disability, so they did not determine he had a disability that qualified for SSI.
So my number one recommendation in action is speak to Dr. Natalie Montfort. She will help you evaluate your son. And I've had nothing but great success working with Natalie Montfort.
How do you spell that last name?
Montfort, Montfort. She used to be one of the professionals at, what was it? Tinja, help me out. It wasn't Gateway. Westview, that's what it was.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
She is phenomenal at writing evaluations and writing them in a way that explain the situation that yes, they are potentially high functioning. Yes, they can do certain things, but she does a really good job of painting them the worst day picture, because that's what you have to do when you apply for SSI, Medicaid, and government benefits. You're not trying to, and this is just advice for all families, you're not trying to showcase the abilities and the potential of your young adult. You're trying to describe the worst day you've ever had with them to the government agencies. Because if you say, well, right now they can't work, but with some help, they probably can, they're not going to approve you. They're going to say, okay, well, go get that help. Hurry up, go get employed. So you want to paint the worst day on those applications. She's very good at doing that in a very articulate way through the evaluation, explaining what they struggle with and why that translates to the employability. So just talk with her, set up a consultation with her. If you want to reach out to us, we'll give you her information. She's very good at doing that. And then reapply. Do not take that rejection as the final answer. Reapply, go for it again. If you get denied, guess what? You got a certain amount of days to appeal. And guess what? If you get denied, we'll wait and then we'll reapply. You don't take no for an answer. You know your son's situation better than anyone. Reach out to Dr. Montfort first.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So this is Medicare, and then Medicaid again, which we've already talked about. Well, actually, which is the next screen, the next slide. So again, SSI, this is $794 a month. SSI is a scale. What do I mean by that? So think $1 to $794. If your young adult's able to work, your young adult has other income coming in, you might not get $794, you might get $603 or $222. It's a scale. It's not all or nothing. Ssdi and the child's benefit is all or nothing. You either get the full amount or you get nothing. SSI is a scale. So keep that in mind when thinking about your young adult's ability to earn an income. The idea behind SSI and what the government says they provide is that second bullet point from the bottom under SSI, provides cash to meet basic needs for food and shelter. I don't know who made this program. I don't know why it hasn't been revisited. $794 maybe gets you far in Topeka, Kansas, but it definitely doesn't get you far down here in Houston, Texas, or God forbid, California or Florida. So SSI is supposed to provide for these benefits like food and shelter. Obviously, there needs to be a supplement to that, and that's what you as a parent need to either provide while they're living or through a special needs trust. Then, of course, there's Medicaid that comes with SSI. And so that Medicaid, the base Medicaid insurance is a nationally mandated insurance program. So all the states have to provide the same base benefit, but what's on top of Medicaid is what's called Medicaid waivers. And those are state-specific programs. So you as a parent need to identify that living in Texas, there are certain benefits here. If you plan to hop around to other states, those benefits, the additional benefits above Medicaid, those waiver programs will change. Along with just the Medicaid waivers, other states have additional benefits. One of the funniest benefits I think is on some of our slides is heating assistance. Besides Ice Armageddon that happened back in March for 3 to 4 days, we're probably not going to have the heater on for the most part of the calendar year down here in Houston. But if you live in Illinois or Wisconsin or Michigan or God forbid, North Dakota, you probably do need some heat at various times throughout the year. So there are other base programs that are in different states that might not be here in Texas. And that's something to recognize as well. What if the child gets child support, but the parent has not been working, so no child support? So the child support question is a very tricky one, and I'll address that. Child support before the age of 18 is not considered income to the child. At 18 and beyond, it is considered an unearned income to the child. So that SSI will take that in consideration. That's why child support needs to be going to a first-party supplemental needs trust. If there's no child support coming in right now, there's no income. So there is no monthly income. However, if there's back payments due, this is kind of some times where there's some situations where mom or dad didn't pay child support, then all of a sudden wages were garnished or whatever was garnished, and now there's going to be a big lump sum of X amount of dollars. That could cause some issues. And so you definitely want to sit down and identify what could happen, what has happened in the past and probably happen in the future. Sit down with family to family, with us, with an attorney, so we can come up with a game plan, either to talk to the Attorney General's office and get them prepared or come up with an alternative. But that is one very easy and very common way that SSI Medicaid gets turned off or denied is because of child support payments. Any other questions on government benefits before I jump to legal structure and considerations? Okay. So from a legal structure and consideration, there are some things that you as a parent need to understand. One, first and foremost, you should, without a doubt, have a will. Bare minimum, have a will. If you have a dependent who's going to be financially dependent on something or someone else when you're no longer here, you should consider examining or discussing options for third-party supplemental needs trusts. That is a way for you as a parent to leave millions, hundreds of thousands of dollars behind to your son or your daughter and not have those resources disqualify them for SSI and Medicaid. So please, please, please do consider having those conversations. Also, going back to the employer benefit side, because that's a pretty easy example. There's two main ways assets flow from mom and dad down to son or daughter, and that's through contract law or through probate. Contract law is named beneficiary. So life insurance through your employer, 401k through your employer. You name a beneficiary when you sign up. You name a primary beneficiary. Does not matter what your will says. If my mom names James Richard Smith as the primary beneficiary for her group life insurance through Aldine ISD, and she passes away, it does not matter that her will says all of my assets go to James's third-party supplemental needs trust. Aldine ISD's life insurance provider will only cut a check directly to James Richard Smith. And that's a problem. Because if it's over $2,000, you're running into issues with SSI and Medicaid, jeopardizing them. So, yes, you should have a will. How should your home go? Your jewelry, gold, antiques, collectibles, your car, cash accounts, coins. But you also need to make sure that you as a parent go through your employer benefits. We've come across some benefits that name ex-spouses from a long time ago. I probably would garner to, assume that you don't want $500,000 going to your ex-spouse of 10 years ago. So please review your beneficiary designations. Please make sure you do not have your dependent with special needs on there as a beneficiary. You have their trust, or you have your estate. Because if you name your estate, it gets paid to, let's just say, Mary Smith's estate, then my mom's estate will be paid out according to her will. So the name of the game, don't name your child with special needs as a beneficiary. But making sure you have these conversations, again, this goes to the question, what do you have set up? What as a mom do you have set up? Did you tell whoever is next in line that you have a will? Did you tell them that there's a trust? Did you tell them who's going to be the trustee of that trust? Medical directives as well. That's so important. As a parent, the last thing on your mind when you get sick needs to be who's making decisions for you. Because I guarantee you the last thing on your mind is, oh my God, is my son or daughter okay? Who's at home with them while I'm in the hospital? So making sure you have the advanced medical directives taken care of. You have your HIPAA forms, your power of attorneys. You as a parent, not as the young adult, you as a parent need these. Because we have to take care of you too. You're going to age. There might be some long-term care events that happen to you as well. We need to prepare ourselves for you so that we can take care of you and worry about the young adult with special needs. Any questions here on legal structure or documents? There's a lot of great attorneys here in Houston. Justin Baker's on our staff, Michelle Goldberg, Lisa Wilson, Boyd Hanlon. There's a lot of good attorneys that can draft documents for you here in Houston. If you've already got them drafted, we can review them for you for free of charge to let you know if they're good or if there needs to be some changes. We'll definitely help you there. Tammy, do you have another question?
Yeah, so we worked with Lisa Wilson's firm, Wills and Hayes, to do, I guess it's a third-party trust. It's executed through our will.
Yep.
And so, of course, we've used a trust firm to take care of it. But I've been doing some research on these pooled special needs trusts. And when is it appropriate to do an independent third-party trust and hire some like Northern Trust to administer it? Or when is it better to go with a pooled?
So generally speaking, our rule of thumb is not to use the pooled trusts. The reason why the service isn't as good, you're going to have to call a 1-800 number every single time you need a disbursement or changes or whatnot. So that's a little annoying, quite frankly. Yes, the fees are lower. That's nice. Depending on what pooled trust you use, however, means that when your young adult passes away, whatever is left in that pooled trust stays behind, or a portion of it stays behind to support that nonprofit and the other members of that pooled trust. So there is kind of that provision of pooled trust that a lot of families don't like. They would rather the money go to other family members instead. So when you're researching the pooled trust, take a look at that. But the biggest draw of the pooled trust is the costs. But in our eyes, when mom and dad are out of the picture, we believe it's better to pay a little bit more in a fee to get better service, to make sure bills are paid on time, to make sure that lifestyles don't change. Because the Texas pooled trust, the Arc of Texas has a pooled trust, a master pooled trust. They had some issues years ago with the trustee not paying bills on time and always getting late notices. And that's just not good service. So take that into consideration. But if a mom and dad only have a child with special needs and they have no other siblings or no other family members at all, pooled trust might not be the worst option for them, just for fee sake. And if all the money behind, the young adult passes away, all the money stays behind to the nonprofit or the other members, it's not that big of a deal. That could be a situation where it makes sense. But typically we do recommend third-party trust with corporate trustees, like you just mentioned, is usually the better route. Any other questions? Tammy, do you have any follow-up questions to that?
No, that helps. I was just curious because, we'd set it up the other way, and I started looking at pooled trust, and I was just curious what most people did.
No, you
Why?
did fine. You did fine. I would probably, if you sent me that stuff, I'd say that's the right way, stamp of approval, good to go. So ABLE accounts. ABLE accounts are what we consider some of the most flexible accounts for our young adults with special needs. I also want to bring into the conversation now, when you as a parent, we're talking about planning and we're trying to tell you what you need to do from a planning perspective. If you have a young adult that's younger than 18, let's just say, and you have no idea what the future holds, they could go to college, they might not go to college, they could be employed, they might not be employed, and you set up a college savings account for them, a 529C college savings account, don't do anything with it. Don't change, don't get rid of it, don't surrender it, don't stop saving to it, save. 529Cs, college savings accounts, do not get counted as a resource. And that's kind of one of the biggest myths, I think, in our community, is that 529Cs do count as a resource for SSI Medicaid. They do not. They are an asset of mom and dad. They are the owner, mom and dad. The disabled or the child with disabilities is the beneficiary, not the owner. It allows more flexibility. If you have no idea what the next 10 years hold for your young adult, keep it in a college savings account, because then if they go to college, you can use it. If they don't go to college and they need it for disability expenses, then you can move it to an ABLE account. ABLE accounts in the tax code is 529A. I copied and pasted 529C language and created 529As. There are some differences. Obviously, this slide kind of explains them. You can only save $15,000 a year to the ABLE account. If the amount is ever greater than 100,000, then SSI will be suspended until it's lower than 100,000. But an ABLE account is and should be considered a checking account. Ohio National was one of the first states that rolled out ABLE accounts. They also did a study a couple of years ago about ABLE accounts, and they found that it's about 8,600, I think it is the average account size, way below $100,000. So what that tells us is, one, families are using them correctly, and two, if we use them correctly, we're not going to have to worry about the $100,000 asset limit. So this is a great source. One of the other things which I just learned about a little while ago was that if your son or your daughter saves their money, they have an income and they save to an ABLE account contributions count towards the tax saver's credit for tax purposes. So they can get up to a $2,000 tax credit on their personal taxes. That is huge. Credits are so important for taxes. Credits are better than deductions. Got 2 questions, I think. Nope.
So I have one, Brian.
Go for it.
I do have an ABLE account for my son for college. It's a 529C open, when he was young and we were unaware. And now he's in his second year community college. He'll probably finish up in a 4-year. If he doesn't use everything in the C, can I convert it to an A? And do I have to do it through, like his is through Utah. My 529 through Utah is his 529C. Do I have the flexibility to take the C, convert it to an A in any states that I want to?
Yes. Just like if you wanted to switch Utah's college savings account to Virginia's, which is American funds, which I like the most.
I'm actually thinking of using Virginia for the A, to be honest. I looked at theirs.
Yep, that's what we recommend, Ohio or Virginia's. So yes, you can, and that is a tax-free exchange. Now, Tammy, you cannot convert all of it. You still fall within the limitations of $15,000 a year.
So I have to do it over time, depending on what's left in the C?
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay.
So that's a great example of how to properly utilize a college savings account and to bring in an ABLE account in certain situations. When we talk about it from families' perspective, ABLE accounts can provide for rent and for food, things that a special needs trust cannot provide for. So that's something, or shouldn't provide for, I should say. ABLE accounts are very flexible, very, very, very flexible. So we don't necessarily open ABLE accounts for every single family. We pretty much don't, because we typically, most of the families we're dealing with, their young adults aren't working, or if they are working, they're spending all of their money on a monthly basis. But ABLE accounts are something that, again, when you talk to the next in line, what have you set up? What are you going to set up? ABLE accounts are extremely important for the future. For us, that's about it from let me see what time. Oh, we're coming up on 1 o'clock. So that's perfect timing. So we are done. Are there other, Morningstar rates, 520C plans. Do you know if any service rates? Maybe John, maybe Morning. I don't know. We don't go out and look at other states' 529As. Texas was kind of late to the party, so we're not comfortable recommending Texas's ABLE account. But we typically only recommend Ohio and Virginia's.
You can Google. So how I found Virginia's, I had looked at Virginia and Utah. I'm partial to Vanguard, so that was kind of who I was looking for. And I Googled somewhere, and they actually gave me a list of all the ABLEs, how they were funded, if they were a broker, fee structure. So there is something out there, because I found it, and that's how I narrowed it down to Virginia. So just Google.
So,
because I used savingsforcollege.com when I, way back in the dark ages when my baby was little, to set up the 529. But there is somebody, and I can't remember what it is, but they do go through it. They don't tell you, they let you make the decisions. They just give you all the information, who provides the funds? Are they Dimension? Are they Vanguard? Are they Fidelity? They tell you the fee structure. And then based on what you know about how you want to do, what fees you want to pay, then you can, but I agree with you. Virginia's was great.
Yeah, and I think the national ABLE, let me see if the website is, second, national ABLE, yeah, the nationalable.org is a great spot to kind of go in there and wait, that's not it. What? There's one website, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but we use it as kind of a reference. It's a great website put on. Oh, ablenrc.org. ablenrc.org. It's the National Resource Center for Able Accounts. So check that website out. There's some really good information there. But yeah, that's all I've got for Ables. Any other questions? Thank you, Tammy, for being interactive, and thank you for everyone posting questions in the chat. I do appreciate that.
Okay, thank you guys for attending our third session. I really appreciate you guys being here, and thanks to Brian and Tanja for all of your information. If you have any questions, you can also email us and we'll share that information with Brian or Tanja, because I know sometimes we get a little shy and we don't want to ask those questions with everyone. So just remember, we also have our small group starting. We'll have the first one August 20th, and it'll be at the, I've just forgotten, it skipped my mind. Help me out, Christina.
Yes, we'll have the registration ready tomorrow. So if anybody wants to subscribe, we're having it's a program to be at a center, but we don't know yet. I think we might have it online. So if anybody wants to register and is doubting if you want to go online or in person, please call us. We want to hear your feedback to see what we must do.
Yes, because we do want to keep everyone safe, and we know, sometimes masks are not always, but we want to share this information with you guys. So if you have any questions about any of the small group, I can tell you right now, the 2 topics that we'll have is the good life, and it'll just be telling you about things to get ready and prepare for the good life. And as far as documents, as Brian was saying, it's so important for us to have these documents, such as the letter of intent. So that's some of the information we'll share first. And then we'll look at the second one will be life trajectory, just going through the life stages. And we'll share that information with you guys so you can make good decisions when you're planning for the future. Okay, so we'll see you guys on the next one. It is September 9th, and it'll be at the same time. So
yes, look for the information on our calendar on our website, f2fn.org, and we'll have it ready for you.
All right, see you guys next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.